A few months ago now, I actually posted my very first save file, and it wasn't like a fully custom one. It was very, very basic in the sense that I took all of the townies that we currently have in the game, and I basically went through and I fixed the hot and cold weather outfits. I also added socks to those townies who weren't wearing socks under their shoes because that absolutely infuriates me. So in case you missed that video, I'm going to link it down in the description, and I'm also going to have a link to the actual save file files in case you do want to get your hands on it. It's fully like base game compatible. There isn't any custom content in it whatsoever, and it basically just means that you won't see horrific outfits for hot and cold weather. But ever since I did that, I actually wanted to hop back into that save and also edit up relationships. I wanted to change the romantic dynamics in case you had love struck. I also want to go in eventually and add like more personality traits such as likes and dislikes, etc. But today I figured we'd start off with the relationship section, especially considering I literally just this week made an updated video looking over all of the relationship changes in the neighborhood stories that were introduced just before Love Struck, and it turns out they're still pretty broken within the game. There are ways to kind of get around it, but we all know that before The Sims 4 Snowy Escape, The Sims really didn't do a good job at representing even their own lore, especially when it comes to relationships and which Sims know which. There is no cross-pack compatibility between any of these. I've always said it, but one of the biggest downfalls of The Sims 4 is it is very lonely, and today I am here to change it. I will say most of the main culprits that we are going to be focused on are definitely in the base game worlds. It really feels like this is where the relationships and where the lore of The Sims 4 really falls flat. Obviously, one of the most iconic flop eras that we have is between the Zest household and the Landgraab household. Now, if we go to the Landgraabs, seem like the perfect family. Wealthy, well-mannered, brilliant, talented, never been done before, outstanding. But Nancy and Jeffrey are hiding something. Hint, it's their child. Are hiding him from the world, even though he lives like behind their house. Will their secrets tear them apart, or will they continue to build a wealth dynasty? First thing that I should do is, of course, testing cheats on, and then I also want to put cas.full edit mode, just so I know if I need to dive in to create a sim, I can. And then if we go to Johnny's profile, it says, has the stage name and the dream, but maybe not the talent. Disowned by the Landgraabs for quitting school, Johnny wants to make his own fame and fortune as a stand-up comedian. Now, Johnny actually hasn't played a role in any of the previous Sims games, even though their son Malcolm has. And The Sims 4 has always had the excuse that it's set in like an alternate reality. It's not in the same timeline as all the other Sims games, but still, I'm like, is Johnny like their disowned son? Is he maybe like a cousin, a nephew of Nancy? Maybe. I like to headcanon that he is in fact their son. Now, the first thing I am gonna do is I'm gonna hop in to Johnny's household. I'm gonna go to the Zest caravan and I am going to save his house, just because I'm a little bit scared that I'm gonna somehow mess this up. So we're gonna go into build mode. And then, of course, I'm gonna save to my library. I'm gonna save the lot. It is Slipshot. Apparently, we're just gonna save that to my library, and then we're also gonna go into live mode, and I'm gonna have Johnny move household. The reason that I am doing this is I actually want to make him their son, like canonically within the game, within their relationships, because if we go to his relationships, he has none. He has no family tree. He's just fully there by himself, and I will not stand for that. He is their son whether they like it or not. We are going to choose him to move in with the Landgraabs. We'll merge their funds and their inventories. We are actually going to sell his furniture, which I think keeps it in the house. Now that we've actually moved him into the home, he's at least acquaintances with all of them. He's acquaintances with Jeffrey, with Malcolm, and with Nancy. But like I said, if we go to his genealogy, he doesn't have a family tree. He's not connected to them whatsoever. And even if you wanted to make him like a nephew or a cousin or something like that, there are ways that you can go about it through Create a Sim, which is exactly what we are going to do today. So we're going to modify in Create a Sim now that we have everyone in the same household. Now, if you wanted to make him like a nephew, you could basically like just create a parent for him, and then you could have that parent be like the sibling of Nancy Landgraab, and then eventually when you move that parent and Johnny back out, you could delete the parent, but I'm fairly sure the relationship would still stay between her and him. But of course, what we are going to do is edit relationships. We are not going for that storyline. We are going to have Jeffrey be his father. We're of course going to say Nancy is his mother, which makes Malcolm his brother. And then I think for family dynamics, okay, so hear me out. These are still going to be kind of filled with my own headcanons, okay? Everyone probably has different opinions. Everyone probably has different stories in my mind, and it's so ingrained in here that I actually think it's canon. Like, I've tricked my brain into thinking that this is the case, but Jeffrey is still a supportive father to Johnny Zest in my brain. He still goes to watch his comedy. I think that's like the secret that he is harboring from Nancy in my mind, is that he still supports their son monetary wise. He like slips him cash every so often, and he still goes to watch his comedy. So I'm actually going to have him be supportive, whereas with Nancy, we could do distant, but honestly, that feels a little bit like too nice. Obviously, she disowned him, so I'm actually going to have this be a difficult relationship between them. And then for Malcolm, that's where the distant is going to come in, because they're brothers, but they don't really talk to each other. Malcolm has no interest in getting to know his older brother. He's kind of taken Nancy's side in all of this. Obviously, one day I will get into all of this, but today is not that day. But I can assure you, eventually, you're going to have the fully fitted out base game save file that you have always dreamed of. We kind of need to change the relationships to kind of show those dynamics that we've already set up. If we actually open up Jeffrey's profile, we can see that he is supportive. When Sims have a supportive family dynamic, older Sim often provides emotional support and reassurance, serving as a good role model. Socializing, both Sims will actively seek to provide affection and compliments to each other. Older Sim will actively seek to console or cheer up the younger Sim, and the younger Sim feels comfortable venting, and obviously he is his father, but their relationship is very like still rocky. It's still very acquaintanceship based. So if you don't actually use mods, there is obviously a cheat, which is modify relationship, and then you put in the name of your first Sim. So obviously we're going to do Johnny Zest. Then you put in your second Sim. So we're obviously going to do Jeffrey Landgraab. And then I think, is it the number that comes first, or is it the LTR friendship main? It might be the LTR _ friendship _ main. And I want this to be a supportive relationship. So we're going to add 80 onto their relationship. Okay, so it's got to be the other way around. It's going to be the target number here. So let's go for 80. Now, I have this like weird glitch. I think it adds 80 on, and technically they already had a little bit of a relationship. So I am actually just gonna like minus maybe 20 off that. But that means that they are good friends. Malcolm is obviously a little distant from him, and I can definitely see these not getting on eye to eye. So we are going to put Johnny Zest and then Malcolm Landgraab, and we're actually going to go for minus 40 LTR friendship main. They are disliked by each other. Unfortunately, Sims 4 doesn't have like one-way relationships, and I really wish they did, because I feel like Malcolm would just be kind of blasé about Johnny, but Johnny would actually dislike Malcolm just based on like the people that they are. But unfortunately, you can't have one-sided relationships. You can't have uneven relationships. They just kind of match each other's freak. However, with Nancy, this is definitely like the harshest scenario. So we are going to do minus like 80 LTR friendship main. They are still disliked. Honestly, I could probably push it further and go for like enemy. There we go. There is the despised. Simply don't get along like most other family members. When socializing, they'll lean towards complaints or even mean interactions. They'll also be more likely to form furious sentiments with one another. Now, I have some bad news because I was actually planning on adding sentiments. Obviously, they were introduced with The Sims 4 Snowy Escape. However, the cheat for adding sentiments now doesn't work. So I may eventually have to download a mod that allows you to add and remove sentiments towards Sims, because I do kind of want that realism as well. It's unfortunate that the cheat is actually broken and has been broken and not fixed for a really long time. Now, I've kind of done that all with cheats and without mods, but if you can actually download mods, I highly suggest UI cheats because it means that you don't actually have to type in all of those relationship cheats. You can literally just come in here and change the relationship. So that is what we're going to be doing for the rest of this video. We're going to do that, and then I cannot remember what he started with. I'm going to transfer 4,000. Obviously, this went up a little bit because he like sold his house, but we're going to give him that 4,000, and then obviously I need to turn on free real estate, and we need to move him back into his home. So Johnny, move household into a lot. We're gonna go back into here. We are gonna do the fully furnished. And he's back where he belongs. He's got all of his items with him, but if we go into his relationships, he still has everything in order. So he has his dad, he has his mum, he has his brother. And then, of course, for the sake of the save file, we're actually gonna move these back in to other households. For right now, I haven't really decided on like introducing families outside. I know I want to do that. I'm just not gonna do it like within this video, but that's where you lot come in, because I want to hear your headcanons. Like, I have a feeling Nancy Goth, not the ship name. Bella Goth and Nancy Landgraab really don't like each other. The Goths have always been like old money, and Nancy is also old money. I think people have it in their brains that the Landgraabs are like kind of new money, but I just don't think they see eye to eye. I think Nancy is very, very different from Bella and like spends her money very differently, and I think she kind of looks down on Bella a little bit, even though we all know that Bella is definitely the best out of the two. If I were to pick a corner to fight in, it would forever be Bella Goths. I love Nancy. I think she's iconic, but of course my loyalties lie with the Goths. However, I also want to hear what you lot have to say. Are there any, like, maybe there's a family from like Copperdale who you think would really get along with someone in Brindleton Bay? For Judith Ward, for example, I hear that she gets with like the same 3 people when you have MC Command Center installed, and that is either Christopher the Werewolf, Marcus Flex from Get Together, or Don Lothario. So I kind of want to eventually set up like a little bit of friendship and romance between all of them, because who are we kidding? Judith Ward has many lovers across the globe, and no one can tell me any differently. We kind of need to obviously nip back into Oasis Springs, because one of the biggest fumbles that The Sims 4 ever did was the fact that Don Lothario is literally referred to as her boy toy for Katrina Caliente, but then they kind of have a jumping off point of like, will he get involved with more than one Caliente woman? And he was actually romancing both of the Caliente sisters plus Cassandra Goth and maybe even Bella Goth in The Sims 2. And I know that they've kind of given that as a jumping off point, but I do kind of want to start a little bit of a relationship. Also, they're barely even acquaintances. They only have a friendship of 15. He is literally introduced as her boy toy, and yet they don't have a relationship. Sims team, what's up with that? So we are going to do like a 45 in friendship, and then I think to actually get the romance up, let me test this, but we're gonna try 10 in romance. Oh, the NA does actually work. Okay, well, we're gonna go up in the romance. We're actually gonna do 60. They're pretty hot and heavy. I still kind of want to make him acquaintances, but not quite that low. So we're gonna do 25 as a base, and then we're gonna go for 15 in romance. Same with Nina. I kind of want them to be woohoo partners. It feels like a beneficial situation between them both. I just think that feels a little bit more them than actually being like officially together. Became woohoo partners. Today marks the beginning of his new found relationship. I also had them have their first kiss because I personally think it's weird when people are like referred to being in a relationship, but then you have to have your first kiss with each other. So now you won't have to do that. They are sweethearts. A foundation of a strong friendship has forced a lasting love, and also woohoo partners. Keep their relationship focused on woohoo. And you know what? I'm actually gonna make the sisters a little bit closer. I feel like they are closer than that. So they are now good friends. And then just friends with them up. Another household that I think flopped so hard when it came to the relationships is definitely the Pancakes. It always is stated that the Pancakes are like on their rocks, like their marriage isn't going well. I mean, their house is actually one of the coolest houses, because if you do decide to play as the Pancakes, you can tell that Bob and Eliza have separate bedrooms, which kind of just shows like how much their relationship like is struggling. Don't get me wrong, I know some people are very happily married and just don't like sleeping in the same bed and just like prefer to have their own like comfort over anything else, which I think is completely valid, and genuinely in the future you might also see me there. But in this situation, you can definitely tell it's because they get on each other's nerves, and the family bio even states that, but their relationship seems to be like near perfect. They are sweethearts. They are obviously still married to each other, which I don't want to change, but I do think I want to change the way that they're set up. So we're actually going to go for 20 when it comes to friendship, and then we're going to do like 35 for romance. I want them to be not as close when it comes to being friends, and I might even take the romance a little bit lower than that. We might do 15 for romance. They're really not seeing eye to eye right now, so they still have like romantic interest with each other, but we can also hop back into create a sim. And of course, with the introduction of Lovestruck, we can change both their family dynamic and their romance dynamic. So we're actually going to go for strained in their romantic dynamic, and then I also feel like we should go for distant in their family dynamic. Now don't worry if you don't have Lovestruck and you also don't have growing together. Those are the two where family dynamics and romantic dynamics came into play. Even if you don't have those packs, this just won't occur in your game. Like, you will still have the relationship changes, you just won't have these kind of tags on them. Sims with a strained romance dynamic have a bit of tenseness in their relationship that's hard to work through. These Sims fail at friendly and romantic socials more than other Sims and gravitate towards mean socials, more likely to gain hurt or furious sentiments towards each other. And then they're more reserved with the distant dynamic, won't make frequent contact when apart. Even when in the same household, they won't go out of their way to interact or spend time together. Definitely way more of a challenge now between these two and kind of like fixing their relationship, or potentially easier for players to ruin their relationship. And just to mention a few more, in the BFFs, it's actually mentioned that there's growing feelings both Summer and Liberty have for Travis. Now, I like to flip that love triangle on its head, and I actually like to have either Summer and Travis both in love with Liberty, or have Liberty and Travis both in love with Summer. I think, honestly, any of their dynamics work. works for those. But it's not just the base game Sims. If we go into Windenburg and we actually head to the Fires household, I really want to check like if the girls actually dislike each other. I have a feeling that they won't, but again, I kind of want to do like a distant kind of family dynamic between Siobhan and Morgan, because they don't really see eye to eye. They don't really get along with one another, but she is just like friends with her. She's also actually friends with people in her club, so technically she does have relationships with people outside of her household, which is quite surprising for Sims 4, but it makes sense considering they are in clubs. Tell me how these two like see eye to eye. Their friendship is at 45. Obviously, once I do start adding in those like likes and dislikes, that is definitely gonna change the compatibility between a lot of Sims. Right now, it's just going off the one that is given to like every sim from the get-go. Now, of course, I don't want to sit here and just like go through all of those relationship changes with you. If you would like to see a couple of maybe streams about this, I might be streaming it over on twitch.tv/EnglishSimmer, because I do think that this is a fun project for you lot to also have an effect on and kind of see the fruits of your labor of like playing this game for so many years and kind of seeing who you think like have chemistry or maybe don't see eye to eye within this game. But I appreciate you all so much if you do leave any suggestions down below. I want this to be like a community thing. I want you lot to download this eventually and like have fun with these relationships and the dynamics that we're creating together. Also, if you do know of a mod that allows you to like add and remove sentiments at like the click of a button, like UI cheats, I would obviously love to hear that. But I hope you all enjoyed this video. I cannot make any promises as to when this save file is actually going to be dropping. Let's be real, it could take me a pretty long time, or I might just like become so focused on it and it's out like before the end of the year. Probably not, because I am very busy in the next few weeks, but hopefully it could be out sooner rather than later. But I'm genuinely just excited to hear all of your headcanons as much as I'm excited to kind of impose my own on you, I guess. I appreciate you all so much, and I will speak to you all in my next one. Bye now.